a match between Weed Stomp on LAN and Rinse and Shine. This is week 1 of Owlet Day 3, and casting with me today is Mr. Dongles. How are you doing, Mr. Dongles?
I am doing just peachy. Thank you very much for asking.
So this match will be on the. This is the final match of the first week of Owlet. So for anybody who's watching for the first time, Owlet is a sort of owl clone for low-level SR competitors. Team averages range anywhere between 2,000 and I think around 2,600. Teams will be competing in fixed matched format, as today's map selections will include Volskaya Industries, Eichenwald, Oasis, and Junkertown. So as we get started here, teams are just sort of getting sort of lined up and getting ready to go. Mr. Dongles, what do you see here on the field between the two teams?
Well, seeing this, I've been looking at the matches that have happened over the past couple weeks, including some preseason stuff. Now, these two teams, they did in fact match against each other. In that instance, Weed Stomp on LAN did 4-0 Rinse and Shine. So they're coming in with a bit of a leg up. They know potentially their defenses, their offensive strategies, so maybe they can continue their streak they have over them. And currently, standings in our stage 1 week, we have Weed Stomp on LAN is currently 2-0, while Rinse and Shine currently sitting at an 0-2. I'm sorry, that was preseason. The current is Weed Stomp on LAN 1-0, Rinse and Shine 0-1. So Rinse and Shine looking for kind of like their first win here. I don't know how they've done in scrims or anything like that, but they're definitely looking for something. And with SR averages, pretty much the same. Weed Stomp on LAN just 40 above, sitting at 2387. Rinse and Shine 2347. So if SR is anything to look at and base some opinions or facts on, it should be an even match.
Yeah. So we hopefully will get to see some very, very competitive Overwatch. And for those who remember, I casted Rinse and Shine's first preseason match.
That's
And
right.
so for those who were watching me, I did give a little smack to Spurkle, who is a person I do know very well. So you'll get to see her on the field today, probably playing off tank to Don XP on the field, and we're hopefully going to see a lot of combos because Sparkle has been playing both the Diva and the excuse me, and the Zarya. So you'll see a lot more Reinhardt Zarya with this meta going forward, and you'll see a lot of sort of good comboing from Rinse and Shine. They'll be targeting that, especially today here on Stomp on LAN. They want to get their first win here. They do not want to go 0-2. And Mr. Dongles, I know you casted Stomp on LAN. Is that right?
That is absolutely right. And they played fairly well. They did 4-0 their last game. And they used a lot of the Hanzo Zarya combos. They very heavily used that. I think it was they won practically almost every team fight using it 4 or 5 times throughout their matches last time. And right now, currently not in the lineup for this first map is Send Sick on Stomp on LAN. One of their really good DPS players. Likes to play a lot of Widow, Pharah, and actually played a bit of Brigitte in like kind of the more tense situations where you're trying to really pack a punch and defend a payload. So currently not in, but I'm looking forward to see how Sensic will be playing, especially for those longer sightline maps. Not currently on for Volskaya, but we'll see. But so far, everyone's played fairly well on Stomp Online. Very good communication, it seems like. A lot of moving together as one unit to not get picked off by certain good DPS or pick style heroes. But it should be pretty good. I'm assuming they'll continue with that Hanzo Zarya combo as they've just been going with. I mean, that was kind of their bread and butter, it seemed like. Hey, look, Sensic right back in there. Hello.
Well, there you go. So yeah, predicting the lineup very well here on Stomp on LAN. Yeah, with the new meta that's been happening, the and the Zarya being on the field and the Hanzo upgrades, teams have started to sort of use that combo between the Hanzo and the Zarya very, very sort of overly well. So the teams that have done really, really well with it are timing them correctly, trying to knock out a Zenyatta so that the opposing team's Zenyatta doesn't trance in the middle of the dragon to sort of waste two ults for one. So you'll see Stomp on Land and Rinse and Shine, but go after the healers before they actually try to attempt a grab combo in most cases, in order to maximize the value of the double ult. So it looks like here they're still doing some last minute changes. For those who don't know, Owlet is an over six player sort of league. So there are replacements that will sit in spectator. So teams can have, Mr. Dongus, correct me if I'm wrong, is it 8 or 10 players?
I want to say 10.
Yeah.
That rings a bell.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, you're allowed to have as many sort of the substitutes depending, like you could have a dedicated, projectile DPS or a dedicated hit stand, or people, even dedicated players to play on specific maps. And because they do take the Overwatch League format, maps are known going into the week of what you're going to play. So there is no map draws or random bans or anything like that. Going into the week that you're going to be playing Iconball. You're going to be playing Oasis. So you can plan around it, and you can sort of dictate your strategy as needed and your players to specific maps. So it makes a little bit more interesting sort of gameplay between the teams. So people have different plans, different ideas going into Oasis or Volskaya, and different players. So it makes research on the teams a lot harder also, because sometimes you're going to go into a map and you don't know who's going to start. So,
That's true.
yeah.
I believe if memory serves me correct, I want to say Sensic did not play Assault last time, so they may be starting him or her. Not sure. They may be starting them a little bit earlier this time because I know they played a lot on especially Control and Escort to really get some good DPS in there. So it'd be interesting to see how often they're going to change up their lineup and who they play their strengths to.
Yeah, and I know that Rinse and Shine also did various substitutions depending on map, and I knew Sparkle came out for, I want to say Assault, but I can't remember if it was Assault or King of the Hill, for one of the ones to replace. So Don Zeppe would come in, or Treinhardt would come in, and they would sort of mix up their lineups and mix up their roles a little bit. So we get to see a lot of sort of interesting shuffles, and teams sort of have to deal with that a little differently, as opposed to having like a set 6-man roster where you know your role and you're going to have to do it. There's going to be a lot of adjustment, and especially in this meta, because a lot of the times teams that adjust to the players on the field first are teams that are going to end up winning the match. So you'll see both Stomp on Land, I think, and Rinse and Shine try to adjust to who is playing what based on what they can actually play, and the team that adjusts the best is going to end up sort of winning the match in the end. But
Yeah,
I think, are we set? Looks like any other changes here coming through.
I think they're just doing a little bit of finalization here, just making sure everything's right. But into your point of making sure you're playing the right players, a lot of these teams, especially obviously I've only seen Weed Stomp on LAN in this current match, they've been really good about switching their compositions. While they have been playing a lot of kind of the current meta with Hanzo, Reinhardt, Zarya, a little bit more tanky, kind of hard pushing meta. Although they did switch it up to a little bit more dive on the larger maps. Watchpoint Gibraltar they played last time, while using their usual compositions. They switched to a dive, which didn't initially work at first, but they just kind of switched one or two things up just to kind of tighten the notches and making sure that they were working well together. And I'm sure, depending on their maps, they have their strategies. Both teams here. It's the dance of compositions and who can outplay who, especially if there's really good widow battles and things like that. If there's no one's really chasing them, so I'm looking forward to see how these teams play off of each other.
Yeah, that's going to be the interesting part, I think. So as we as we still keep getting ready here, it looks like the delays have still continued, as we're into 10 minutes now of delays as
Hmm.
they're trying to get ready. But this is normal. I mean, like
Oh yeah,
when you're talking about
absolutely.
setting up games and stuff like that, the one that gets me are the disconnects. Oh my god,
Hmm.
there isn't a sub 3000 match that I haven't called that we are just inundated with disconnects, and it's just so frustrating. But it is what we have to deal with when we're casting online games here
Oh
with
yeah.
people from all around the country. So
It's
And
usually about a 50-50 for me. It's usually there's no disconnects at all, or there's just one person who will not stop disconnecting. There's a totally different tournament I used to cast a couple months ago where there was a particular player to whenever his garage door would open, it would for some reason shut off his router or just kill his like download upload speed. And so like people would come in and out of his house sometimes during late at night when these games were, and he would just disconnect and be like, all right, he's out again. The garage door's open. So it's just really weird things like that. But hey, finally into the game.
Traveling to Volskaya Industries.
all right, we're gonna get started here. So finally, I didn't even get a ready from our admin, who just happens to be the coach of Risen and Shine too. So our match referee is Telrec. Just a shout out to him, just to make sure that we acknowledge his existence. So as we get started here, I will be on color, and Mr. Dongles here will be doing play-by-play. And looks like We Stomp on LAN will be on defense first. And I see a Widow here from Sensic.
Yep, I was totally expecting that. Widow is going to be sitting far in the back, or maybe trying to get a little, up close and dirty. He was, or she was, doing that a lot in their last match against Furious Unicorns in preseason. Just a lot of up close and personal Widow fights, which interestingly enough, but they eventually won it. But still, it'll be interesting to see maybe Brave can do a nice little duel on the other side here.
Yeah, and you see from Paper Monk's Sparkle here, it looks like a sort of a half dive coming with Bobby Smiles on the Tracer here. So Brave will take the duel with Sensic as soon as they figure out that there's a Widow on the other side on defense. But you'll see Bobby, Sparkle, and Paper Monk try to sort of pick a target here and sort of try to go to town on them. And you'll see Necro sort of fall and sort of stay behind and be that secondary support, maybe that DPS, that Jonak role coming from Rinse and Shine.
Jonak, the DPS, is in himself. But with that gate finally open, taking the right side in, just a slow rolling start. Let's see where they're going to choose to particularly go through this choke point. Not, they're biding their time, but with Brave going right up in front, trying to get that first shot off, missing on Casual, who's up on the powered Junkrat up top, and Paper Monk trying to get his way in down to half health. It's kind of a slow start here so far. Brave way in the back, and we got a bit of a flanking Tracer. Bobby Smiles going off onto the high ground, and they're already in. Paper Monk going straight in, but only by himself. He gets taken down and hammered to the face. Sparkle now separated, and the supports are getting in a bit of trouble here. And Casual, my man, throwing the pills and grabbing those kills.
Yeah, good job there by Casual. They weren't able to sort of dive properly. Basically, Sensic had free reign to shoot wherever he needed to. Great positioning by him in the back right corner. And it seemed like Paper Monk and Sparkle just couldn't get their dive organized right. Bobby Smiles couldn't find a target, so they're going to have to sort of reset here and try to sort of figure out what they can do here with We Stomp on LAN, stepping really far back here on offense.
And Brave doing that same move at the front, grabbing that window ledge and trying to get a shot in. Right now, going into the top right. Once again, kind of a slow-moving pseudo dive composition they got here. Necro taking a huge pill, but Brave and, well, there goes Necro falling. Cash the Cursed is alive and ready. The res does come out, so Reed get him on the field, and out comes the Tyrant going straight underneath him, looking to try and climb. Can't quite get it. Looking for a Diva. Going to get Sparkle close to getting demacked, and Veritas is going to take that and clean it up. And so far, a bit of a back and forth here on the kill feed there, you can see. And right now, New Elite coming in with a lot of energy, but Veritas is just an angry Reinhardt swinging at everyone, going for just the supports, but right now, that is an easy cleanup, although a quite long fight, and oh my gosh, Brave, so brave, but until he gets shot in the side of the head.
Yeah, that engage took a little longer than We'd Stomp on LAN like. They ended up losing Audit to Cant there at the very end, and if Rinse and Shine realize it, they might have a 6v5 here if they can rush in and sort of go in and take this advantage. It takes Zenyatta forever to get back onto the fields here, so we'll see from Rinse and Shine what they can do. They've had real issues here trying to sort of pick a target to attack when Brave takes a great kill on Sensic.
third time the charm, but Luna will get the res just barely. That's a close get there as she's flying down, but in come Valkyries from both sides here, and the fight's going to stick on that point. Papermonk trying his best to slap people on the ground. Veritas barely missing a charge, but he gets booped twice and gets thrown out after throwing down that Earth Shatter. But there is some follow-up from Casual and Sensic. They're doing the work they can. They're a bit spread out, and now everyone's kind of trapped in the small room. Spurkle actually getting DMAC from Audit Can't. And I think with a 4 against 3, they're in a tight space, though. That can be really difficult, especially with Papermonk. That Tesla cannon will just be tickling everyone there, grabbing all that good charge. And he will be able to finally get the new elite down with a little help from Bobby Smiles. And actually, Veritas coming in with a cheeky charge here.
Yeah, it looks like here they're having real issues sort of focus firing. They're finally going to get Veritas down here in the middle, and now they're just letting sort of We Stomp on Land trickle in. Now it looks like Casual X just sort of backing up, sort of going to concede the point here. You know, they probably could have had the point a little longer. They decided to go after targets instead of going and trying to figure out, like, you know, staying on the point and having them come to them. But instead, it looks like here they finally taken the targets with 4:09 here left on the clock.
They're coming in with just about 5 ultimates here. Maybe Big Green can throw out a lot of damage boosting or nice, awesome healing to grab a 6th ultimate for them. But Brave gonna throw things out, get those walls up, and out comes an early Diva Bomb. Veritas gonna easily shield that, but it's just gonna take down all that health. And out come Papermonk again. He's looking to push people off the edge, looking for the Zen. Audit Decant way in trouble in the back. It looks like Casual's trying to help them out, throwing a lot of damage. But back on the point, Big Green and Bobby are falling down, and out comes a tire just to clean things up. Spurkle out of mech, but actually Brave will snipe the tire as it may have been going for him. And right now there's a nice solid defense. Stomp on Land taking it back on, and they're going to stabilize here.
Yeah, it was good stuff there by We Stomp on Land. They didn't panic when that Diva mech sort of flew in and tried to sort of open up space against them. Veritas took control, took out 2, and now Sensic going off here, taking out Brave PLM in the middle of a retreat. So another reset here by Rinse and Shine. They still have 3 minutes here on the clock. If I'm them, I just sort of want to wait here a little bit, make sure that Brave, who's switched over to the Hanzo here from the Widowmaker, try to get him up as quick as possible and try to maybe see if you can use the Dragon to sort of zone out the team and maybe engage on that attack.
Yeah, definitely using a Dragon just as a split mechanic to get those maybe supports in that right corner you need to. But actually with a Reaper now with Casual, I've seen him play that a lot of times, especially with those divey tanks coming in. But right now Sensic got down and right back up he goes, and Luna will actually fall from that as Brave Palm already, he's doing the work with Hanzo already. 2 kills with it, and with a trans from Audit trying to keep his people alive, a little bit of insurance. Tanks are trying to put out as much damage as they can. Big Green though keeping people alive just barely as Valkyrie now wears off and trying to go with a little Battle Mercy now as they're on their last leg here. Spurkle is going to be well, kind of bullied at the moment unless Sensic is going to fall, but no, they'll keep her alive.
Yeah, Sensic doing a great job here, sort of flanking around and making sure that, like, she's not in a position to get sort of jumped on. There was that initial kill right away by Brave PLM, but the immediate res and then the flank over to the right gave her a lot of space as Rinse and Shine sort of engaged here on the point. And they just were getting crossfired, and there was really nothing they could do. 140 on the clock here. They really only have about 2 pushes left. It's a long walk from the spawn, so let's hope Rinse and Shine can maybe get at least a tick here on point B.
They're going to have to deal with Veritas and his shield. They want to throw out something there. The Spurkle going way in the back, but the shield on the Sensic is going to keep them alive just a bit longer. Luna heading out that Valkyrie, heading way into the sky, trying to avoid that damage. Sensic going to finally fall to a Pulse Bomb from Bobby Smiles, who hits it, but Earth Shatter and Diva Bomb. Spurkle sleeping on the job, or being stunned there rather, with a charge. No surviving that burst damage as the Dragon comes down, splits down the middle, not doing any damage, but it's going to cause Veritas to put his shield right in front and not allow them to get into the point with that Dragon. Bobby Smiles, though, way in the back, still doing a lot of poke and just aggro damage there. And they're going to have just one more chance here to get another fight.
Yeah, Bobby Smiles is still alive on the point, and he's probably just going to be annoying them. He can't get back to his team, so it looks like We Stomp on Land has decided not to chase him down and just sort of allow him to get back to where he's going. He's going to be flanking from the right here but it looks like Sparkle's with a last-minute Zarya change. There's no way for her to going to be able to sort of build up that Zarya Graviton in time. I don't think so. But this is their final shot.
But the grab, but the Transcendence is there to keep everyone alive. Although Bobby Smiles gets headshotted many times, and that just causes everyone to react with their own ultimates. And not much is really coming out, as a lot of healing is coming out from both sides here. Papermonk trying to keep that shield up, but it does break. That is the worst case scenario, but too bad Earth Shatter has already been used by both sides. But still, he will fall to Casual X, who used his Death Blossom way earlier, and actually already back up to 60%. But they are just doing work here right now. Earth Shatter get thrown out, but actually canceled. Animation couldn't quite complete. Dragging through doesn't do anything either. The Sticky Bomb onto New Elite, but there is enough healing there to keep him going, and that will be it. Only 1 point tick and no tick.
Yeah, no tick there for Rinse and Shine. Sparkle was glowing like a Christmas tree towards the end.
Oh yeah.
And the problem was that I think she just changed a little too late. I think if she would have gone to the Zarya a little earlier, maybe, instead of holding on to the Diva more, they would have had the Graviton there at the very end, because she is a very good Zarya. And they maybe could have used the Graviton on their end to maybe counter what came up against them. But it is only 1 tick, so they will 1 point, so they will only need a second tick on point 2 to win Volskaya Industries.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds easy, but it's Volskaya. You know, everyone always makes the memes of 2 CP lol and all that, but still, it's just if you take that first point very quickly, and you've had, you know, with that just 1 fight win, you have a lot. You know, you have such a big lead on ultimates, and you can basically bum rush point B. And most of the time, teams will take that win.
Yeah, I mean, like, the thing about it is the time advantage will be your sort of crux on how you sort of take it. So if you can take it very, very quickly, you can sort of YOLO in and just sort of go for it. But at the same time, if you know you're not going to get it, it is probably advantageous for you to sort of just wipe as a team. And then you have the patience to sort of build 6 ults and then just go for it. Just blow everything on the engage, get your tick, and then be out of there. I mean, that's usually the easiest way to go about it. If, though, this does take a long, long time, like how Rinse and Shine basically had to spend about 3 minutes in order to get this point, then maybe strategy changes from We Stomp on LAN, and they would probably want to sort of consider slow pushing and maybe be a little bit tactical on how they engage. So we'll see. It looks like Brief PLM here is taking station in the back corner, right where Sensik originally was. So another Widow duel here on point A.
Oh yeah, and both teams opting for a double sniper composition here. I've seen We Stomp on LAN use this a lot, and they will definitely try to use a Zarya Hanzo combo to lead things off here when they can. But Veritas keeping the shield up like a good rectangle man, making sure his team gets over safely. But it's just 5 so far. Sensik, I didn't quite see him. He's maybe doing some flanking. Yes, he is over on the left side, but they're going to take the high ground. An interesting choice here with some damage boosted Casual X there, doing a lot of damage, or at least he's trying to, attempting to. But now it's the choice of when to engage. Veritas is going to lead the charge, but just by himself. Storm Arrow is actually going to pick off Necra for a first blood here, but will get brought back up to negate all of that work, hard work. But here, a big old Reinhardt fight, as actually Veritas will become the victor. That Zen Orb keeping him alive just enough. Sparkle, though, back on Zarya. That big shield is going to keep him, or keep her from getting a lot of charge. A lot of ultimate, but right now We Stomp on LAN just kind of slowly picking off and making sure they get everyone they need to. Gonna keep Big Green alive just for a couple of seconds, but there they go. A quick, well, sort of quick take.
Yeah, it was a quick take, but you know, I'm actually very, very impressed at how We Stomp on LAN essentially just set up a crossfire there on their movement. They sent Sensik around on the far side and allowed her to sort of crossfire with Casual X, so everybody was sort of trapped in the middle, and Rinse and Shine really couldn't really do anything. And once Necro went down, they felt like a house of cards, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it looks like Brave already going over to May, and Veritas going to throw out an early Earth Shatter and just going to slam his way through. He'll get frozen for a second. Actually shot the, well, Transcendence 1 second too late, but no worries. Both Reinhardts brought back up, so now we have a big hammer fight and some shields going back up. Just a game of chicken, although Sensik doing a lot of damage way in the back. No one's contesting him right now, and wow, just a barely off point. Big Green was actually stunned off to the side, and they just couldn't get on the point.
Now, yep, that's right. So it was only
Play
all about
of
a
the
tick.
game.
So it was all about proper positioning from Weed Stomp on LAN. They knew they could just sort of force Rinse and Shine over to the right and make sure they worried about dying just once. They
Double
take
kill.
one person out, then people start to panic, step off the point a little bit, and that did it. And they ended up getting trapped there in the back corner and were just unable to sort of come back and step on the point. So first blood goes to We Stomp on LAN.
Hmm. And I do like that they have some forethought, at least, Rinse and Shine, where that immediate switch to May, they knew they lost that fight and they're way behind an ultimate. They're going to like at least getting one good hero that could do a lot of good stalling,
Mm-hmm.
but he's just kind of off to the point, and maybe the thought of just getting that one tick wasn't like in the forefront to where they just like a half second too late to get back on point. But a good initial thought to get, a little bit kind of longer lasting heroes on that point when you know you're on the back foot.
Yeah, and the thing about it is everybody has a tendency to forget. People get all caught up with the headshots and the killing. It's an objectives game in the end.
Mm-hmm.
So like
Absolutely.
so you have to remember what the objective is. And in this particular case, Rinse and Shine had to realize that the objective was to prevent them from getting one tick on the point. And they tried their best and tried to position themselves in a way to sort of stall, but just it did not work out for them. They got opened up on an Earth Shatter. The defense just wasn't able to sort of hold out in that particular way, and it's just a matter of time once We Stomp on LAN sort of established themselves on the point, and there was really nothing they could do about it. It's sort of hard for a team to defend really only one tick when a team is already down your throats and already gotten the res off, and you're sort of excuse me, sort of like unbalanced. So if a team already has like a 6v5 advantage at that point. So it is going to be Eichenwald here. I think there's a little bit of debate going on in the chat, they thought that they were going to play King's Row, but instead they're actually going to be playing Eichenwald.
It's a
Oh,
shame. I do really like King's Row, but
yeah. So uh-oh. Looks like an issue here. It looks like the spreadsheet was wrong. It could be that they were looking at the wrong spreadsheet, because these maps are just for anybody who is watching and are friends of either players from Rinse and Shine and Stomp on LAN. The maps are dedicated in a giant spread in a Google Doc that teams can sort of look at and see what they're going to be playing from week to week. I don't know if who is arguing. Is it Machine Eagle? So he is saying Machine Eagle is I don't know which team he represents. So, but
he's probably. I think he's for Rise and Shine. I
oh,
believe. I don't recognize that name from Stop on Lane.
oh, okay. So like
No, it's definitely Eichenwald. That's what it says on the sheet.
yeah,
Hybrid.
that's what I have too on our initial starting card. So I think it looks like, I think because of the map choices were the exact same in preseason, I think a little people were a little bit confused. There are only certain sort of combinations that you can so go with, so I think it is just a little bit confusing here when they looked at it. So maybe they looked on the wrong tab and they looked at the preseason one instead of week one. So
Who knows?
yeah. So uh-oh. But we are going to go to Eichenwald. The match referee. This is where it gets a little awkward because the match referee Telrek is also the coach from Rinse and Shine. So Rydarius looks like saying they want to go over the map a little bit first. So we will go here to a slight break, I think, because I don't know how long are they going to take though. This is going to be a little weird.
Who knows?
Yeah. So, well, in your experience, Mr. Dongles, like, what do we need to see from both teams on Eichenwald here in order for either team to be successful? Because it looks like one of the teams is going to have to sort of prep for a map here very last minute because they weren't sort of ready for it, unfortunately.
I think it's really gonna have to come down to really smart tank play, especially for defenders. That initial choke point on Eichenwald is always kind of like a hard spot for a lot of people, especially if defenders, if they have a Junkrat, or really either side has a Junkrat. I mean, Reinhardt's shield's going to go down quick. Zarya's just going to gain a ton of energy from random pills. So it's going to be really positioning for tanks will be very important. While I don't know if maybe they won't probably sit on that choke point as defenders. I know on King's Row and a lot of other hybrids, a lot of teams like to sit back near the point and allow the attackers to come in and kind of set things up, but it also gives a slight kind of pivot area for the defenders to make sure they're in the correct position and they know when they can engage and come back to defend their supports. Well, if you're up way front, it's a kind of a crapshoot sometimes because you can have a lot of, if you have Pharah coming in for the attackers, really vertical, which isn't a bad choice. It's just a little bit different and potentially safer plays for defenders if they go a little bit farther back.
Huh. Okay. So it's going to be interesting with both teams running a Widow, though. So it's going to be one of those things and see who. Yeah, it's going to be problematic maybe running the Pharah here, which is a very popular pick on Eichenwald. But, they're going to have to be careful here. And teams who doesn't necessarily have practiced this might not know exactly where you can hide as a Pharah from the Widow sightlines. So just trying to be careful as you're either flanking on top of the sort of main front building there going over, or possibly even taking the long way around and going all the way to the back and maybe surprising the team all the way from the bank, because there are a couple of long flanks here on Eichenwald that you can sort of do, but they do take a long time and they really expose your tank front line here to significant amount of damage if you can't sort of engage fairly quickly, because it does take some timing here to make sure that if you're going to do a long flank to do it right. So both teams here looking like they're trying to get their lineups right. There have been substitutions everywhere, so I don't know if you've been keeping track of it all, Mr. Dongles.
Trinehart is coming in new, and Don Zepe is new as well. I think Lumbo. So yeah, it's a Apocalyptic is new. Yeah, Apocalyptic is the only new person on the side of Stomp on Lano, while Rinse and Shine rather, I believe, has subbed out 3 people. So obviously they thought a different map, but that's all in the past now. I wouldn't, even though I wouldn't be surprised if both teams come out with a Widow, like you were saying earlier.
Yeah.
But both of these teams also run a Reinhardt at the same time, and Reinhardt always kind of beats Widow if you have a choke point type of thing. There's not a ton of really high area vertical spaces for Widow to go, but still, I've seen from personal experience, I've seen Sensic just kind of sidestep a lot of Reinhardt shields and just find like that really particular angle that you're able to find and throw out those shots that's just good enough to get that initial pick, and then hopefully your team is smart enough to come in and really push with that pressure on like a 6v5 situation. But I don't know if Rinse and Shine will run a defensive Widow. That seems a little odd to me for Eichenwald. Maybe a little bit more hit scan player. I don't know if McCree would probably be pretty good, just in case of Pharahs or anything like that. But it'll be interesting to see once we get into match.
Yeah, so looks like here Rydarius is now ready and Luna Excel is also ready. Veritas says, we Gucci. So we're going to be, I'll just make sure I say R2, just so that they know that the casters are
ready. Gucci Mane. No.
So it looks like casters are also ready. So we're going to head into Eichenwald here for map 2 of this game between Weed Stomp on LAN and Rinse and Shine. So just waiting for Telrek here, probably talking to Rinse and Shine a little bit because he is probably just doing some last minute strategy here. Brave PLM.
He just rambles forever. Wow, good timing.
Well, that's what a coach does. So as a previous coach for another team, we have a tendency to sort of keep talking. I told my players if I talk too much to shut me up and just just get to it. Sometimes as a coach, you just want to make sure your team is super, super prepared, and you just sort of talk their ear off when they're just sitting there. It's like, all right, let's just do it already.
You try to over prepare them, and they're just like, yeah, sure, yeah, I get it. Let us play.
Exactly. Sometimes, the thing about it is like you just want the best. You want the best for your players, and unfortunately, sometimes the best for your players is just to let them do their thing. And a lot of coaches have have a hard time with that sometimes. It's like, so there are different types of players. There are those who don't necessarily need very much coaching and just send them out on the field without like a real plan and just let their mechanical skill take over. And then there are others who are very sort of students of the game and want to play with like a distinct strategy or a sort of a way of just sort of playing so that they're very team focused and let them know. So Telrec now finally asking everybody if they are ready. So
The second R.
so it looks like what is our voice channel is being toxic. So apparently Casual X saying that Stomp on LAN, just letting just a lot of profanities, maybe toxic talk here happening there on their channel. But here we go. Stomp on LAN will be in red, Rinse and Shine in blue. Stomp on LAN will be on offense first here for Eichenwald.
I'm not sure what to see. I'm not sure. Okay, if they're gonna, well, initial picks. I'm seeing a Genji. Maybe they're just going for an early. They're thinking about dive. Now I've seen them play dive once or twice so far. It hasn't been incredibly successful. Their Genji play and kind of usage of the Dragon Blade has really only gotten 1 kill, maybe 2 kills on their uses. That's kind of the nature of Genji right now, because you have a lot more, obviously with the Brigitte coming out, a lot more stuns you have to worry about and things like that. But it'd be interesting to see if maybe they can kind of improve some of their, at least Genji play or dive play. But with that current just mess up there with a Torb, I wouldn't expect that at least to stay there. But it'll be interesting to see with Paper Monk coming out with Orisa, really trying to lock down a certain area and just throw that shield down as much as you can. And of course, you have Trinehart, one of these subs coming in, going for a bit of Roadhog play. So maybe a little, hook, line, and sinker strategies coming out as Paper Monk going to pull people in, or pull people around corners, then Trinehart going to hook them right back into the deathly grasps of the rest of his team.
Yeah, the hook 'em and cook 'em strategy here looking like what they're going to try to do. Paper Monk saying far back here, so you were right about like teams sort of defending a little further back here, closer to the point as opposed to closer to the choke. But yeah, they're going to be looking for picks here. Looks like just PLM and Pepe just looking to make sure what the configurations are going to be. So here we go.
Yeah, coming things out in an interesting composition, I would say. Genji and Pharah. You don't really see those two heroes side by side, but nevertheless, we are going in. But there's a bit of Pharah Mercy action. Let's see how they deal. Maybe Lumbo can land some direct shots as well, as they have their own Pharah Mercy. But the initial hook and pull is kind of batting Veritas around, as he has to deal with Brave, who's throwing a lot of arrows on his left side there. His shield is almost down. He has to keep it, healed up at this moment, and he's getting shielded, but he's getting bullied. The healing is just there long enough, but down goes his shield finally. And now a bit of a split offensive, as right now Apocalyptic is going really deep, and Necra right now is being pocketed by Danzepe. But right now the charge gets stopped by Paper Monk, who will fall actually, as the supports are now down for Rinse and Shine. And an interesting strategy here. It kind of paid off, a little sloppy, if I do say so myself, and the rest coming back just for full strength for the heck of it. And Trinehart feels bad. He's the last one alive.
Yeah, they tried it again here, and this is sort of very typical here with Stomp on LAN. They go for like a little mini flank here and try to sort of trap Rinse and Shine in the middle. So when we saw Apocalyptic and we're following him around, we noticed that he went immediately all the way into the back, which forced the supports of Rinse and Shine to come forward to run away from the Genji. But what ended up happening is it trapped the entire team between two fronts, and they couldn't sort of decide who to attack here, either from the back or the front, and they just ended up getting squeezed in the middle. And now it looks like the engage here already happening.
Veritas just gonna not even bother with Paper Monk. He's just gonna walk right through and Earth Shatter his way, and his team will just clean up so quickly here. Not much to that fight, really. Just walking forward and hitting that big ol' Q button. And man, a really spread out defense there for Rinse and Shine.
Yeah, Weed Stomp on land there, I like their aggressiveness. A lot of teams forget that when you're on these sort of hybrid maps, when the payload is coming out, there is a tremendous amount of time here that you can use to your advantage to even sort of make some space for yourself so you don't get trapped into these mini chokes. But now the engage here already at the end of point B.
And with a rocket barrage coming in from Lumbo, only getting one before getting directed by Sensik, who's doing a lot of work here. Not a ton of focus as Trinehart now over onto D.Va is going to jump in there. Luna with an aggressive res to get the trusty aggressive Veritas back in. Almost getting a charge, knocking Paper Monk way up into the corner. But they're just going to keep swinging at each other. Man, they are definitely not playing defensively as Rhines. They are always in each other's faces here. And even with, well, Brave kind of knocking them back, they're going to finally be on the retreat and regather their strength.
Yeah, Brave there winning the fight there for Rinse and Shine. His hit scan has been on point today. You know, him dueling with Sensik is going to be an interesting to see, because Sensik is still staying on that Pharah, and he's now flanking around here trying to get Sensik down.
Now, hold on.
Yeah, and they're going to be flying around here, and they're coming in with 6 ults here, Weed Stomp on land that is, and they're going into a different attack pattern here, going in through some of the tight hallways, but they got to get out there first and make their presence known. And Sensik going way below the bridge, trying to be sneaky here, but he's not really going to be fighting anyone at this moment, as finally they come out into the open. They go into the fight, and Earth Shatter will come out, but not much follow-up at the moment, as just 2 ultimates have been used, as Weed Stomp on land coming out and just cleaning up as best they can. Oh boy. Trinehart getting knocked out of Mac. Don Zepe, not much coming from the Valkyrie. Can't heal so much damage coming from 6 enemy players here. But they will essentially get past that defense, and they will finally break down that door.
Yeah, they spread him out. So, like, what ended up happening was Sensik was just sort of flying around, and they knew they needed to take care of what she was doing there in the air. What they ended up doing, though, is they ended up getting trapped in the door, trying to sort of figure out where he was going to be coming from. And then they just sort of got collapsed on, and that was it, the end of that fight. There was nothing really that they could sort of do about it either, because of the small area they ended up fighting in. Woo! But Brave
There it is.
with a great sort of high noon.
Oh yeah, the very quick trigger pull from McCree's. I've seen this a lot with McCree's using that Deadeye now. It's just, you don't want to get too greedy. If you find those real squishy heroes, you pull that trigger as soon as you can, and obviously dividends have been paid. Actually, Audit Decant will go down to a sort of rogue fire strike here as, oh boy, Lumbo getting a little aggressive there, but in comes Apocalyptic. He will get stunned briefly, and he's going in with his Dragon Blade, but once again, Transcendence coming out to negate all that damage, and he won't be able to do anything as a Graviton Surge comes in with a combo from Sensik way up top. He will fall, but not after getting 4, and that should be enough. And they might try and clean up these last 2. Brave PLM trying to get that last stun on Apocalyptic, but man, they're in big trouble here. Don Zepe needs to fall back along with Brave. They're in real tough positions here. And boy, they are real split. And coming in the back, Paper Monk will gonna actually whiff an Earth Shatter. He thought most of the team was in the back, but now they're coming in. He will get a charge in, but there's just too much damage been done so far, but we stump on line. Audit Decant still staying alive. Necra onto Lucio here, trying to get back to Carton, currently stalling it out, doing quite a good job so far.
Big Earth Shatter there, right in the middle. Actually catches one, and now the kills are still coming the way. And another blade here by Apocalyptic, trying to make sure that he can get the rest of the team out, and I think he's done it.
Yeah, they're going to just boop Trinehart just ever so softly so he can't get back on that cart. Boy, pretty good ultimate usage from Weed Stomp on land. Even though they had many ultimates at one point, they still were very particular about the ones they wanted to use.
Yeah, and they were very, very good at making sure that they used it at the right times. And like timing of that last ult by Apocalyptic there was just to make sure to close it out right there. They were basically fighting 6v2 the entire time there at the very end, and they knew that they couldn't waste their ults, because if they did, it would open up Rinse and Shine for them to sort of be able to sort of retake the fight if they sort of overdid and overused their ults for only about 1 or 2 kills. Apocalyptic, like, timing it right, making sure he got maximum use of the blade, closed it out for Weed Stomp on land. So good stuff from them. They have, looks like 2:09 here left on the clock, so a very fast Eichenwald by them. So
yeah,
that
absolutely.
is very cool.
it was really that second stage. You know, like each of these hybrid maps, they always have like a sort of an S section. I always like to think of it as, you know, King's Row, you have that middle section where you're snaking through the streets. Eichenwald here, you're snaking, doing this kind of U-turn or U-bend. And it was just that initial fight of just that Earth Shatter and the immediate follow-up to where they just kept pushing that payload with no contesting happening. To where that gained them so much time.
Oh yeah, I mean, like if you can make up time there on the street space, and it was because of their sort of open aggressiveness as they were coming out of the gates. Like as soon as they got they hitched up the payload, they immediately started poking and immediately just engaged from them, even before the payload was completely out of the gates of the front fortress. Portcullis. That's
there it is.
Yeah.
The portcullis, the gate.
The gate. So
yeah.
by them making that much space for themselves, it forced the fight farther back and give them more space and even more time there on the engage. But here comes Rinse and Shine's offense here, so hopefully they can be able to do just something similar and just as fast.
Yeah, switching it up here, some Winstons from Paper Monk, and going for a little bit more dive with Trinehart's Diva, and right now New Elite getting pushed off the top, a little bit of forward positioning from these higher mobility heroes, but actually New Elite will be demech'd early, and that is a almost good as a pick if you think of it that way, but actually Sensic will do some nice stun and fan the hammer to get Paper Monk down, but Brave Bomb with the storm arrows to grab 2 squishies, and with this back and forth fighting, I don't know who's going to come out on top, but with the res onto Audit Decant, that can really turn the tide things here. The Lumbo right now sitting up top, unabated, just firing rockets down, but Apocalyptic is finally back. But right now, Brave throwing out that dragon is going to split off, and we'll get Audit Decant back down into the grave. But Veritas is just being bumped around and flipped, but Apocalyptic, Rocket Barrage for 2, and with still a lot of scrappy fighting going on. There is reinforcements coming in with Trinehart and Necra coming in, and with a charge from out of nowhere, Veritas going to get actually a Pharah Lumbo going down. So with the skies currently clear and Trinehart out of mech, they are going to surprisingly get back on their feet here.
Yeah, Apocalyptic came back with 3 massive kills there to sort of save the team. It was just one of those things in which it's like that you thought that Rinse and Shine had it like sort of in the bag, but they never developed any sort of time on the point. They were too busy trying to kill everybody around the point, and that sort of allowed them, while they were chasing for Weed Stomp on land, to sort of come back and sort of refocus and come in back with the kills.
Oh, quite a late res coming out at Audit Decant, Veritas. Ooh, get the 4-piece going, my man or my gal, whoever you might be, but geez. Just a 1-person army going through, and a Paper Monk getting slammed into the side of the wall after hitting the Primal Rage, which is all for naught at this point. Oof. What a tricky situation they just avoided there.
Yeah, absolutely. That was just a big 4K there by Veritas, setting it up with that great Earth Shatter, which could be sort of a play of the game material, so we might see that there at the end of the game. But here they come on the engage again. Trinehart here on the Zarya now, with sort of only 5%. Hopefully you can build up some percentage here.
Ooh, but an early pick on the Luna from Lumbo is going to do it. And actually, once again, Apocalyptic going to throw out a Rocket Barrage, but in an awkward place and a little bit too high, so he can't quite reach anything. But out comes Lumbo's own Rocket Barrage, and he'll get just 1, and that's fine for him at the moment with a nice little help shield from Trinehart. But right now, Paper Monk finally gets his revenge on Veritas, slapping him down to the ground. But now he's in a bit of a tricky situation as Apocalyptic is just up top, throwing rockets down. And Sensic has kind of been a sleeper hero here, been on the, the edges, just throwing out a lot of damage.
Yeah, Lumbo's had to be worried about what Sensic was doing. Sensic was being even followed by Lumbo all the way around the back and around the corner. They were so focused on him that the rest of the team was able to sort of open up and do what they needed to do here. So by Lumbo not sort of focusing on the rest of it and being worried about Sensic, the rest of the team was able to sort of come in there and finish off the rest of Rinse and Shine.
Oh yeah, and Sen currently hiding in the bushes. We'll get a double stun, and with the help from New Elite, we'll take down 2 actually to hit things off. And Earth Shatter's whiffed. Paper Monk actually booped out of the way, but it won't matter at this point. Actually, Valkyrie thrown out by Don Zepe, who can't really do much at this point except try and keep Trinehart alive, who's a bit split, and they need to get back. Well, actually, 4 seconds left. They need to get on the point. I take that back, but they're nowhere near here. And they're just going to have to go on to the next map as Weed Stomp on Land takes it for 2-0 in the series.
Yeah, Rinse and Shine was just unable to get like a focused offense going.
Play of the
They
game.
literally, they almost had the take there in the beginning, but I think just chased around too much without making sure that they got at least some percentage here on the point. And Rinse and Shine's got to be careful. They want when they've like sort of gotten that sort of
Triple
advantage,
kill.
that 6v4, 6v3 advantage. They don't need to chase around a team. They can just sort of sit there on point and make the team come to them. Because remember, you want to make sure you get this objective, and with that sort of advantage on the field, Rinse and Shine will can make We'd Stomp on LAN or any other team make a decision. Do you want to just sort of feed right here, or do you want to sort of run back to your team, gather yourself, give up some percentage time, and then come back? By them chasing him around, it opens up space for Weed Stomp on LAN or any other team to sort of come back and allow to a fight win that could happen, like we saw when Apocalyptic came out there with 4 kills there at the very end when we thought that it was Rinse and Shine's day on point A. But they've got to sort of work on that, and like hopefully they'll get that for. It's a long season, so it's going to be one of those things that we'll hopefully see that sort of turn around for them.
Oh yeah, especially with players, they've only played just a few matches with each other, and coaches getting to know who's good on what, who's strong at what situations. So it's just a process of learning and just making sure that you have your not just your hero roles, DPS, tank, flex, support, whatever it may be. It's who's the shot caller, who's helping out, making sure that you guys are going as a unit. Who's taking that leadership role in that communications environment. But we're on to our next map already. Oasis. Control. I'm expecting, depending on what map we start out with, some more Farah Mercy.
Yeah, pharmacy for sure. It depends though. Like if you go to library, we'll definitely see sort of a close comp configuration more than we will on City Center or Gardens. But I expect some great DPS play from both sides, from Rinse and Shine and Stomp on Land. Sensic's been in every game, and it looks like with some of the substitutions here, it looks like Rinse and Shine's DPS Maestro has sort of dropped out for being substituted. I think so. Brave PLM out here for Rinse and Shine.
Yeah,
Uh,
and Bobby coming on in. We saw him do a little tracer work. He seemed fairly effective. Not a terribly great pulse bomb play, getting one or two kills here and there, but doing kind of what tracers are good at, zipping in, doing a lot of poke annoyance in the back on the supports, keeping people on their toes. But with Oasis, you have a lot of room to work around these points. Many entrances and exits you can dip in and out of. So I'm interested to see if he can kind of help turn the tide for Rinse and Shine.
Yeah, good tracer play here can be very advantageous, especially on Oasis. There are all three maps are very, very good for tracers in the sense that if you can get control, a tracer that Bobby plays would be able to sort of stall and delay for almost eternity. So Rinse and Shine could play it multiple ways, especially on City Center, where the map is sort of like a giant circle that you would have to
Oh
sort of
yeah.
that where you chase the opponent around essentially. So whoever gets control of City Center first, for example, has a huge advantage on that map because they can just play the line of sight game and even just earn 10% while the team just tries to sort of chase you around. So it'll be interesting here what they're going to end up doing here. And looks like I think are they actually looking like they're doing
Stomp on
something.
Land
Yeah.
doing one more switch out here, one more change. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see some Hanzo action from either side, just because Hanzo's wall climbing abilities, a lot of verticality and a lot of movements, especially now with that somewhat newer lunge mechanic that he got.
Hmm.
Especially for that city center map where you can just keep climbing up on that center pillar and walking around, because that's really annoying to try and fight someone who's up on that upper edge and there's just only so many angles you can get on them, especially if you're not a really high mobility hero. But once again, I'm expecting for Stomp on Land I've said it many times, the Zarya Hanzo action, they haven't really done it at all, so I'm going to say they're doing it this time.
So, looks like Rinse and Shine bringing Spurkle back in here. So, we'll probably see her here on the off tank, either on Diva or Zarya. Most likely, probably Zarya, depending on the map, though. Like, if Stomp on Lane decide to come out with a Pharah, though, I could see them coming out with Sparkle on the Diva just to sort of contest up in the air if Bobby decides to stay on the Tracer instead of going to sort of like a hit scan character to deal. So, Casual X here asking if anybody's streaming this. I actually am. So let me. Looks like yeah. So Apocalyptic there. Thank you for the Apocalyptic, thank you for the push there. So I'm just going to check the Twitch actually right now to see what chat is saying. Looks like it is just the team. Looks like Hartson saying, "Oh wait, Audit Decant is in this game." Yes, Audit Decant plays for Stomp on Land Hearts. So and Hartson saying also let Spurkle carry.
Well, hopefully with a bit of Zarya action, she probably can.
I hope so.
Although, speaking of Audit, just subbed out for Kairu, changing out a couple of their supports here, but still.
So yeah, it looks like Rydaris is saying that they are ready, and we're going to be going here to Oasis here in just a sec. And it is on the East Coast right now. Each map has taken about once we got started about 15 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes. So Oasis here, a notoriously long map, if you can stall. So like there have been countless 99 to 99s on City Center I've seen where teams just will trade back and forth at 99% because it's almost impossible to get somebody off the point.
I always feel like that these control maps have no place being a like overtime fest type of events, but I've seen like Ilios maps go on for like 9.5 minutes before. It's really stupidly ridiculous how that happens. It's just that everyone goes Tracer, Sombra, Lucio, the quickest heroes they can grab, and then they just keep tripping onto point, and they get bruised in the face, and they get shot in the side. All right, now the other side kind of falls into the pit. Oh shoot! Now it's just a lot of weird, like in the moment mistakes, and a lot of just chaotic. I don't know if I'd call them strategies. Just let's get to the point and try not to die first. That's usually what happens.
Yeah, and the Korean teams, like I remember watching Apex, and it was, if I remember, it was Lunatic High who was able to sort of stall on a map without giving it up by just sort of just doing what you were saying and just tiptoeing in, pulling back out, tiptoeing in, pulling back out. The Blizzard people have added the overtime mechanic to actually sort of tick faster now, a little bit quicker from what I understood based on some of the changes, but you still see the May will also be a great staller. Just in this particular case on Oasis, it takes a little bit more time though to get to the point. So sometimes it's a little harder here for a May to sort of get back onto the point. But like on a lot of the other ones, the walk isn't as far. Like I know, like for example, Lijiang Command Center, you can actually get to command center fairly quickly, and then you can really just sort of stall it to hell sometimes too, without having to worry. So hopefully we're not going to see something that pretty crazy here, but I think both teams here just trying to get set and ready. Telrek with Rinse and Shine, just making sure that his team is all set and done. And New Elite here from Stomp on Land. Stomp on Land very kindly allowing Rinse and Shine to have their time. So very nice team from Stomp on Land.
No worries, Smile. Also a fairly good Zarya player, as we've seen a few times. Especially in their last match, there's a lot more high energy Zarya playing coming out, but Rinse and Shine not really allowing a lot of energy to be gotten by New Elite. Although we've seen some late changes onto a lot of Zaryas on both sides here, so not as much Zarya play as I'd like to see. But it's just, it's the decision of teams of when to switch their compositions. Do we stick with our, pseudo dive comp, or do we keep pushing forward and try to crack that defense, or just break through? But we'll see as now, finally, into sunny Oasis. Into the lovely library.
Yep, into the library we go. And the thing about it is I'm actually surprised that we haven't seen a lot of Brigitte yet. So I don't think a Brigitte has been played on the field. I don't...
No. I would expect that to come out on Escort. to where really stunning people on that payload, especially in overtime situations, can be a wonderful thing to do for your team, because especially if you're pushing people back with those stuns, and if it's an overtime, that bar just goes like lickety split, and that's just a good enough to end the round. But I wouldn't expect one on a control map. You're looking for a little bit harder hitting, higher mobility people, perhaps.
Yeah, you're probably
Although,
right here.
seeing a Bastion, so what do I know?
I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be real, but I've seen some Bastion strategies on King of the Hill where you try to sort of establish a corner and you try to keep
Oh,
the
yeah.
Bastion there. So maybe interesting we stomp on land here, maybe going with
5,
something experimental,
4,
or we'll see a last minute
3,
change here from Casual
Ah,
Mix,
there
which
it
is what
is.
we got.
Round
Yep.
1.
So
Capture
Hanzo Zarya, I can only hope, but Don Zepe coming out with a Moira. Definitely not a bad choice. We see this all the time in control maps, because you can just get your coalescence so quick. One of the quickest ultimates in the game, because you just throw those orbs in and you get that charge so fast. And now both teams taking a very different approach. One to high ground. Rinse and Shine sitting up top, and Reinhardt going a little too far off the side, but he will get res, so that don't matter at all. The boop from Sensic will actually get Don Zefe off the map. He can't get him back in the game. And now Sensic just continuing to lay down damage and kills. And there's a bit of a tricky moment here. Necra and Spurkle trying to make their way out. And right now, Bobby Smiles having a bit of a tough time trying to get these DPS out of the sky.
Yeah, so I'm very impressed with Sensei here. He's like basically taking this match here by the scruff of the neck and making sure that he's his impact here on the match, even early on in Oasis, is taken seriously here. Oh, and a great charge here by Veritas.
And even as Zarya is able to keep him going as far as he can, and they are just supporting their Reinhardt as best they can, and really it's just smashing into them and splitting whatever hold they have as a unit, and they are just driving the wedge in there and just picking people apart here. Reinhardt, I think it might be time for him to switch, perhaps.
Yeah, I think you might be right. I mean, like, I don't know if he's getting anything out of this Winston right now. He's getting picked off just so that, like, he's just not being sort of contributing to his team. He needs to stay on the field, and instead he's getting charged or getting killed or not actually participating at all. And now look at it, we're already at 65%, and they haven't gotten a percentage tick yet, and Oasis has gone super fast now, and they haven't even engaged.
Oh yeah, and both teams going to have a lot of ultimates here, but once again, Reinhardt just going down early to these rockets or these arrows. Casual X doing the work this time, but Lumbo, well, don't matter anymore. The res coming in, the pulse bomb just barely missing as she flies away with the Guardian Angel, but right now, Veritas doing a great job at holding that front line, keeping his shield at that perfect size choke point there. 90% in climbing here. Bobby is going to fall, so they're going to have to really get close to point here, as the Tracer is so good at stepping on that point and making sure that they can continue this on. Early Valkyrie to get onto the point. Necro going in there, and Lumbo, coming in, but actually not going to grab anything too far up in the air. Earth Shatter from Veritas going to grab 3 way in the corner, far out. The charge in, Kim comes in, but right now it's going to be real tough here. Don Zefe finally throwing out the coalescence, keeping Reinhardt alive as long as they can, but he will fall once again. The most, probably character that died the most in this match so far. And with Bobby the only one, the last bastion of defense, 100-0.
Yeah, that was a very dominant performance there by Stomp on Land. The real issue there was Rinse and Shine was just, they seemed a little hesitant. Especially in the initial engage, they let Weed Stomp on Land sort of come onto the point, and as I was saying, sometimes you just want your enemy to come to you, and that's what Weed Stomp on Land did to Rinse and Shine. It forced them to engage, but they just didn't seem like they were comfortable engaging from where they were on the point, and once they conceded the point, they were just having a real hard time getting back, because they were getting staggered here and there. There were no clean disengages by Rinse and Shine, so it wasn't allowing them to sort of engage properly, or they were delaying their engages so much that allowed Weed Stomp on Land to sort of just come in and sort of wipe through them all. So very problematic here for Rinse and Shine right now, and they have real issues, and it looks like a disconnect here from Spurkle, so a pause to be coming in. So we will take you to the scorecard here.
Yeah, it gives a bit of a brief pause and a thought to Rinse and Shine to maybe reaffirm their plans and their strategies here. They're still sticking with the same composition, Reinhardt on that Winston, who I don't think he only got his Primal Rage until the very end, maybe, and I don't even think he got to use it as much. But it's real tough. They're going into a lot of damage. New Elites actually didn't even need to use his Graviton Surge. He used it after the round ended.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the rest of his team on Weed Stomp on Land was able to pick those right moments to use theirs. But right now it's I don't know, a bit of a interesting gray zone for Rinse and Shine. They're trying to figure things out here. And Bobby Smiles, they only changed to the composition going on to Genji. We haven't seen Bobby play yet.
Yeah, and the thing about it is I understand what Rinse and Shine is doing. They're using the comp that they have now, which is an extremely mobile comp, to sort of get to a target. The problem is that sometimes it's just they're not getting to the target that they want to get. So Lumbo in the air, also, the other issue is that Lumbo's in the air with Necra pretty much most of the time. So that only leaves Don Zeppe to be healing on Reinhardt. And if Reinhardt is jumping around, going everywhere, the Moira is just not going to be able to sort of steadily heal the to the Winston, excuse me, close enough. She has to be mobile enough to go with the Winston. And that's probably why you see sort of Reinhardt going down very, very quickly, because he's just not in range for the healer, with Necra being in the air and having to deal with Lumbo, and Sensic being, like, basically a problem onto himself on the side of We Stomp on Land. So, like, Lumbo has to be sort of super, super careful. So Necra, having to pocket Lumbo there in the air is just probably just cutting off the healing for Reinhardt and just not allowing him to do his thing. And Don Zeppe is just probably not going to be able to sort of keep up if that's the case, if he's going to be jumping around everywhere on the Winston. So you're probably right in the sense that maybe, like, if this doesn't work, maybe if you get Reinhardt to go onto the Rhine or something with a little bit slower that can play closer to the Moira, then they'll have a better sort of stable sort of front line here to sort of use that on attack. So
yeah, and it's a weird distribution of roles to play. They're going up against Sensic, who's still on Pharah, though they may not currently know that in this map right now. But they don't have any hit scans, so Lumbo is going to have to be doing a lot of mid-air battles. Bobby Smiles may have to disengage to exclusively go for Sensic on Pharah, but you also have Luna on the other side trying to keep Sensic alive. So you're splitting your roles up to where, with these types of compositions, these really mobile ones, you want to be rolling as a unit and really trying to roll through and take out those more squishy heroes. But with everyone kind of going in different directions and not playing as a cohesive team, we've seen it's become a little problematic here.
Yeah, but this is what, like, the initial weeks are for. You sort of want to figure out what strategies are working, what's happening, and what can we sort of change up. And they'll take a look at this VOD later on, and they'll see some of the issues that they're having, and then the coach, who Telrek, who is actually the admin of this game, will probably go over and make sure that they understand, like, this is what we could have done here, this is what we probably done, this sort of strategy doesn't work. So there's a lot of feel out here, and this is a longer tournament. So these teams will have a while here to sort of adjust and get ready for the maps going forward, and they're gonna suffer some failures. They're gonna have some success here and there. So it's just going to take some time for everybody to sort of mesh together and get ready. So, but we are going on our 4th minute here. It looked like Spurkle was able to connect and then disconnect again. As there are some issues here on the connection side. They're not going to be able to sub anybody in mid-match, so, looks like Rinse and Shine here in a bit of trouble. Hopefully they don't have to fight this fight 6v5, because that would be sort of terrible.
Yeah, it's never a fun thing to watch, seeing a lot of people coming into a 5v, or a team coming into a 5v6. It's it's also kind of messes with whatever kind of competitive state you're in. You're like, oh gosh, we're already down a person, so now you have to kind of work through that and try just a little bit harder. But you're going at such a a one person down, that in these games you can't always be like a one man army. You can't always carry a team, especially in this game. So interesting to see, maybe as the pause timer goes away, maybe she can come back in and try and save the day a bit. Who knows? But only time will tell here, as teams are still, they're talking to each other. Just, maybe they're just, not really doing strategy because it's been almost 5 minutes already.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
at least We Stomp on LAN is feeling pretty good at this moment.
yeah, I mean, they literally have one map to win, and they will win this series. Then the fourth map, the escort map, will be just for map count. Because of the way the structure works here in Owlet, map count will come into play here for playoff seeding. So it'll be interesting to see. Like, a lot of the times, if a team goes 3-0, teams usually will try to experiment on the fourth map and sort of try out new strategies here. Looks like Spurkle here has joined the game again. Yay!
Ooh.
So back in she goes. But as I was saying, it is going to be WSOL, We Stomp on LAN. All they do need to do is win one of the next two maps, and they will take the series. And then we will go into our fourth map, at where, most of the times, if a team has already gone up 3-0, they sort of lighten up. They know they've already won the series. They might experiment a little bit, and it'll be maybe you'll see from Rinse and Shine here a little bit of reinvigoration, so that they want to get at least one map and not go get 4-0'd here through it all. So looks like the pause timer is done, and we're going to go
back to the game. Trying hard, landing hard, and getting hit by some rockets. Maybe not so ready, but they're going to not engage him at the moment, being a bit of good guys. Well, they'll throw a fire strike up there. Why not? Hey, there we go. He's back. Coming back in. He will go in with a little health down.
That was actually nice of We Stomp on LAN to not engage right away.
Yeah, they got a little out of it, but still, they're gonna go right into the thick of it as Bobby Smiles now on Genji, looking for Luna going in the back, but now he's a little deep, separated from his team, but he'll slice through, and some help from Lumbo will get Kairu off the board for the moment, with a very aggressive res, but Veritas keeping his shield up to keep them safe, and they're just gonna come back with so much strength here, doing a lot of damage, picking off people. Lumbo, no more mercy to follow him around. He will have to disengage. Let's see if Bobby Smiles will try as well.
Yeah, Bobby Smiles tried his best there, getting into the front line and getting a kill there early on Kairu, but unfortunately it just wasn't to be. The team just was sort of wrapping around, and then Sensik again at the very end there, making sure that cleaned out that fight, getting Trinehard and another player down. So now it looks like here Rise and Shine again on the back foot, and already 23% here on the first take. So here we go on their re-engage.
Yeah, Spurkle coming in with some diva play, or though getting hit by lots of rockets to stop her from going a little bit too deep, but Sensei coming out, actually finding Necro, the one hero you want to grab as a first pick. Mercy out of the fight, but it's Don Zepe coming back with his own plans, coming up the Coalescence, a little bit of damage, a little bit of healing, maybe a little both. Veritas whiffing the Earth Shatter, but once again, a bit of opposite action. Bobby Smiles trying to do some dragon, but Kairu coming out with the Transcendence and a charge from Veritas. He is Angry Man. Once again, he will get Spurkle out of mech. But now he's in a tough spot as the rest of the team of Rinse and Shine finally looking on the upper edge here. They will get the point here and start building up their own, their own little home.
Yeah, so good stuff here by Rinse and Shine, making sure that they win that fight fairly well. Great ults there coming out from the supports. Don Zepe making sure that his team was alive there with that Coalescence. The engage, those did go the way of Rinse and Shine, the way they wanted it. They sort of isolated Veritas and made sure that he was away from his healers and just saved him for last there. And now as they re-engage here, looks like Casual X gets an initial kill on Necro.
No. Necro, the first one to fall for the second time in a row, and leading off that whole thing, Luna calling everyone to arms with a Valkyrie, and now just barely getting that res out on Kairu, but the Fists of Fury could not knock her out of her resurrection range from Trinehard, and that's going to bring them up just about to full strength once again. And a lot of ultimates been used. A new elite now getting Graviton Surge. I'm looking for him to use it. Maybe waiting for Spurkle to hit that defensive matrix, perhaps. But Bobby Smile is going to get smacked in the face by, once again, a very aggressive, angry Reinhardt. But Sensei going up over the edge, trying to get some poke damage, and will find one for himself. And there they go, taking it back at 61%.
Yeah, I mean, it was actually a good delay there by Rinse and Shine. They had lost that fight relatively early on, but knowing the way that this map is sort of set up, they sort of stalled it and sort of made We'd Stomp Online sort of chase after them. They ended up building an additional about 20% there as they sort of tried to wrap around and sort of change the direction of the fight. But now it looks like here Rinse and Shine have to win this fight, because this fight is going to last a little too long.
Oh my.
And there
So-
comes the grab.
So Sensic was waiting for a little super spy action with the rocket barrage, but actually was found out by Bobby Smiles. But here comes finally the Hanzo Zarya ultimate combo. They use it, but only to a small effect, but it may be enough as they have spread out all of Rinse and Shine here as coming into this point. That overtime ticker going, and that's all they need to win. But Sensic will get a mid-air rocket barrage onto Lumbo just to get him out of the equation, and there they go, falling down. Sprinkle's going to get back on the point, but I don't know how long she will last. Already out of Matt, getting blasted across the stage, Earth Shatter into the ground. Veritas having a little fun 360 hammers, and there they go, taking the series, but we still got one more map to play.
Yeah, very decisive win there by Weed Stomp on LAN. As soon as Rinse and Shine was able to sort of give it up, they got them really on there. Sensic got caught initially trying to come around and sort of ruin that engagement. Here, a great boop here from Sensic on Don Zeppe in the play of the game there, but no, didn't get punished for it. Like they saw him flanking, they didn't really sort of punish him properly, and he was able to sort of come back and, with the help of the rest of his team, just sort of finish them off there. Good work on the overall sort of tanking there also by Veritas. Kudos to him on that Reinhardt, just making sure that his team has space and is able to sort of engage and do their thing. It's a good sign of a good tank there going forward, making sure that the DPS does its thing and just making sure that the rest of the team is protected. So
Yeah, and he obviously trust is placed both ways here with tanks and DPSs and supports, because they're allowing him to go so far forward and constantly be swinging that hammer and charging into large groups of enemies. And the supports are there just to give him enough health to make it back so they can regroup just for that second push into an extended fight here. And yeah, it's really great teamwork so far from Weed Stomp on LAN.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I'm enjoying the tank play here by Veritas. So it's like good stuff here. Now it looks like some wholesale changes here coming through on Junkertown. It looks like Veritas will stay, but looks like the near lineup here coming up for them will be Casual, Veritas, Kairu, Luna, APOC, and the new Elite. So Apocalyptic coming in, it looks like here, and Casual X coming in, and then we lose. We lose Sensic, so our DPS Maestro here for Stomp on LAN getting a break here on map 4. So a little bit of relief here for Rinse and Shine, so they don't have to deal with Sensic's cast of characters that he can play.
Yeah, and especially, having a Widow on Junkertown, such a massively open area for that first point. I'm surprised they don't have him in, but maybe just giving Sensic a little bit of a break, and they're confident enough. I mean, they've had the series; they might as well go for an extra map point. But they're okay to change out, to let their a little bit more stronger players to take the bench while getting other people in to get a little bit more playtime, perhaps. But so far, not many changes, at least at the moment, for Rinse and Shine. They're probably maybe still talking it over here. But interesting to see how these compositions will work on an escort map, especially. We've seen a lot of Orisas, sitting on the payload, trying to do just real hard to dislodge them on those attackers. So interesting to see what they come up with. Paper Monk, though, back in.
Yeah, looks like Paper Monk back in here for Rinse and Shine. But yeah, it's a sign of good coaching here from Stomp on LAN, and also good team play. Make sure that anybody who's sort of been sitting out gets some playtime here on the final map. The bonus point with regards to the map is nice, but it's not necessarily important. It's a great time to let your sort of fringe players or your players who are very specific in what they play have a shot here at Junkertown. So knowing that, good stuff here by Sensic here to take a break on the final map and let some other of the team in so that they can get maybe some time on DPS. It's also a good time also to experiment. So maybe, like, let's say they want to play a configuration where, let's say, Sensic is out for the week and is unable to play for your team, and you want to run you will have to run a configuration on Junkertown. It's a great time to sort of practice in a real match to see whether or not they can sort of survive. Here on Rinse and Shine here, it looks like not there any changes. Brave PLM is back in, I guess, for Rinse and Shine. So Is that right? He
Mm-hmm.
wasn't in the
Oh,
last
yeah.
map. Yeah, and then Paper
Yep.
Monk in also. So Rinse and Shine here want to make sure they get a map. They don't want to get 4-0'd. Differential does come into play later on in this tournament, so you want to pick up every map you can. And Rydarius here ready to go. So it looks like uh, as soon as Stomp on Land, excuse me, Rinse and Shine are ready, we will be heading into Junkertown.
The final map, long walks for both teams, either way. Even for first point, especially after you pushed into that real open field area. Defenders spawn. You don't have any sight lines until you come into that large gate.
Mm-hmm.
So you really have to put yourself out in harm's way. You have some larger areas in the back, maybe for some snipers to stand, but it's all about that payload. You got to stand on it to stop them. So we'll see. Paper Monk perhaps go. I'm thinking a little bit more divey mobile compositions from either side, just because there's so much space to work with, a lot of flanking routes you can get to. So it'll be interesting to see how they try and dislodge each other.
Yeah. I expect maybe PLM here, Brave PLM, to actually maybe start on the Widow initially here because of the open spaces, because you just don't know initially what Stomp on Land is going to run, but at the same time, like, there is so much open area here that a Widow can flank from multiple areas on the side. So, the typical sort of run here on the professional teams, they'll go with like a double sniper combo. They'll start with like a Widow Hanzo just to start off on offense, but not necessarily here. We might see that from Stomp on Land. This is one of the few maps that has that big giant open space, and I sort of think that they need to have more of them. I don't know what you think of like the way that this map is particularly set up. I know there are not a lot of fans of Junkertown, but I just think that first section between like the sort of bridge choke and then the front doors of Junkertown itself is just very interesting in the sense that like you don't really have that in any other game in any other map in Overwatch.
Yeah,
So
it is definitely unique, but the thing is, with obviously this being an objective based game,
mhm.
while you have all that open space, there's really not a whole lot of usage or not a lot of advantages from really using it, other than having some long range DPS standing in the back.
Yeah,
Because you can have the attackers are just rolling on through, trying to knock off all the defenders on the cart, but it's just a lot of space. It's kind of like on Horizon Lunar Colony. You have that outdoor area, the low gravity, which I think the developers even said they just used it as they put it in that map as like almost as a joke, almost because they didn't think anyone would really use it seriously,
yeah,
because it's such an oddity, because there's no low. I mean, there's low grav in custom games, but there's no low grav anywhere else.
yeah.
I mean, we've seen it used very few times, professionally. But yeah, I expect teams to stick right on that clear pathway as they try to make their way into or defending that payload.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting here to see what with looks like Rinse and Shine will be on defense first, so they'll basically let Stomp on Land sort of set the bar on where they're going to need to go here. So Telrek still talking to his team, trying to make sure that like, hey, like you want to keep the morale up. It is super important, even though you're
Welcome to
down 3-0,
Junkertown.
you've already lost the series. You want to keep the morale up. You want to make sure that they are still in this, and how important each individual win that you get as you slowly build up as the season sort of goes along. You just don't want sort of anger or sort of like frustration sort of set in, because it completely affects your play, and it'll be the role of the coach here to make sure that his team is able to sort of bring itself up. So a win here on Junkertown should be sort of like a nice way to say goodbye to the series, at least I think. So.
Oh yeah, we hope, and we've all had those situations in competitive play where everyone's just real toxic because you're losing by like 5% on a control point. Everyone's just yelling at each other for no good reason. But obviously, with organized play, hopefully that won't be an issue. And already, I'm looking and I'm seeing Orisa's and Bobby Smiles on that Roadhog. While last time we saw this, Trinehart was on the Roadhog. So different player on the same hero. Let's see if they can maybe do a little bit better this time. But right now, seeing a bit of double sniper action, at least at this moment, from Weed Stomp on LAN, while not new, we have different players playing.
Yeah, it looks like Brave PLM here on the Mercy. So Brave PLM
Attackers
showing off
incoming in
all of
30
his different
seconds.
sort of sort of hero pool here. So interesting. We know we know the hero pool is predominantly DPS from Big PLM. So I think this is the first time I've ever seen him on the Mercy before. And Bobby Smiles here on the Roadhog here, probably going to try to hook a Bastion right off if that's what they're going to be trying to do. So Bobby will be
5,
trying to sort of
4,
hook him and cook him
3,
here.
2,
Well, it looks
1.
like here they're looking with
Attackers incoming.
half pirate ship with only Veritas here on the Orisa.
Stop
Yeah,
the
they get
payload.
the obviously they get the early sight lines, so they know what they're up against, and now you have to position yourself correctly here as that damage boost, or just that damage from Kairu is just so intense. And already, although Veritas the one to pick, and actually two big fat tanks down, Veritas will back up actually from Luna with that early res. They're gonna get pulled together, slapped heads, but they're gonna hold steady here just for the moment, as they got those early picks here.
Yeah, Bobby Smiles got to be careful here. He is on the Roadhog, but he just wants to make sure he doesn't want to give up too much damage here. Now it looks like the Widow's coming into play, and Apocalyptic, though, does take down Piframon.
Boy, but both snipers down on the defensive side here, so now they have to play up close and dirty here, but they are just getting rolled and smoked at the moment here with a pause called out here by APOC rather. Some interesting plays. APOC getting a little too overzealous, although there was a last second healing from Luna to get that last little shot onto Paper Monk, who was doing all right until that last second.
Yeah, I mean, like they were able to, they were able to sort of like come back very, very quickly on the sort of failed push. A lot of the times, you go in with a Bastion push though, and you fail immediately. They were switched, but it looked like they were ready to sort of figure out like what to do as soon as it didn't work out for them. They repositioned the Bastion not on the payload but on the ledge, and it sort of like messed up Roots and Shine, and it didn't seem like that they were ready for it. And the disconnect here, I think, is associated to the fact that like there was some frame drops and some FPS issues here with one of the players on Wheat Stomp on LAN. So we'll get him back here as soon as we can. It looks like hopefully he has a non-mechanical hard drive that has Windows booted on it. So therefore,
Let's hope.
yeah, so therefore it doesn't take 20 minutes to boot up your machine. For all of those out there, I highly recommend an SSD for anybody who is building a new machine out there. At least a 240, so you can put your OS on there so that it will boot up on 5 seconds. But if you have to and you can't afford it, 120 is enough to load Windows 10 and then just put your games onto another hard drive. But that is Hodo's tech tips of the week right there. So
Hit the bumper and we're back in.
yeah, exactly. So Apocalyptic now just waiting for an invite here. He didn't get disconnected, so it's not one of those things where he gets automatically invited into the game. He has to get re-invited in, and there he goes. So back in he goes, and once we are ready, we will be taking you back into the action.
Yeah, and Kairu with so much damage laid down early on, almost into that tank configuration, and he's going to be sitting just nice and pretty on that payload with Veritas protecting him as best as they can. So, going to be real tough to if they can even want to try and re-engage here. Necro though, onto a Junkrat, or has been on Junkrat, which is a good early nano boost coming back into Trinehart, throwing it out. Just well, interesting. Just maybe you thought Trinehart wanted to use it before you lose it. But some scattered play here as they're going to be pushing slowly into that first point here.
Yeah, that sort of like pause really sort of messed with everyone. And the positioning of where Trinehart and Necro were, that fight was pretty much already lost at that point. They really didn't need to waste any sort of extra ults, but at this point, it's like you might as well try boosting Necro, maybe getting a little bit more damage to maybe get Kairu off the point here. But as they sort of push through now, the engage has started here on the strength booster now.
Oh yeah, and the damage boosted Bastion sitting on the far back edge of the payload. Interesting positioning here. There's going to be melting those shields, but out comes a tire right into the center. Going to grab Veritas out of the fight in a Actually, a D-Mech on the new Elite as well, so that's just good enough as well. And they're going to keep going in with a Supercharger, and that might have some interesting effects here. And look at that, just the kill feed practically all red. But Paper Monk will just grab a little bit before falling to a nice little headshot from the new Elite.
Yeah, and that bongo there was just there to ensure the fact that they got the point. So it looks like with 5:39 here, there's tons of time as they get into stage 3 of Junkertown. So we'll see how far they go with this Bastion. Looks like his ult is up, so Kairu here ready to sort of blow people away with his cannon. Rinse and Shine here have got to make sure that they be careful here on this engage as they come around the corner, or they're just going to get blown up through. Oh.
They got their own Bastion too. Paper Monk trying to do a little bit of their own medicine. They're going to actually nano boost them, and that may just be good enough to keep melting people down. Veritas had no chance, but just a nice soft landing for a bomb. We'll grab Brave, actually, as I believe that shield just broke at the last second here. And that would just be enough for them to just barely stabilize a hook from Bobby to get the new lead down on his own level. Luna trying to Guardian Angel out of there, but a D-Mech, and I'm interested to see if she'll stay in Baby Diva form or maybe just try and stick it out here. But an early charge in from Veritas. Now onto Reinhardt. They're switching things up, a little bit more mobile shield, and they are going to have to be pushing through. Kairu up high on the payload, continuing through. Big Green down, and now with no shields to defend them, although they last albeit briefly, they are going into the last stretch here.
Oh yeah, and that fight did not necessarily have to go this way. It looked like Rinse and Shine got a little greedy when they won their fight, and they got picked off right as they started to engage with Stomp on LAN, and it's just completely gone not well for Rinse and Shine right now as the Dragon comes through to open up some space, but it looks like here Rinse and Shine are reestablishing the point.
Yeah, they're investing just about everything they had into that fight, though, so that's a little disconcerting, you know, stopping that payload just over a meter away here. I mean, the tire to lead things out may have been enough to equalize, but they just use a little bit too much on the edge there.
Ooh, Bobby Smiles there with a really big kill. That'll slow down Weed Stomp on LAN here just a little bit, so that will give them, I think, enough space here to sort of deal with engage here as they wait as they come around. So.
APOC gonna be sleeping on the job, but he'll be back into it. Now onto the Genji. He's looking for something to grab. He's not trying to go too deep at the moment. He's had some problems in previous matches of going a little bit too far, but so far sticking alive. But Necra been almost, not really been paid attention to, although will now fall. Kairu finally using a tank configuration, coming out, trying to find those big meaty targets, but only hitting really Bobby Smiles. And now way in the back, actually, we'll find Paper Monk, who will get a face full of tank shell. And now with the damage boost and him sitting on cart, they'll be tough to get back there, even with a Lucio or Junkrat throwing a lot of damage. And there they go, falling one by one, 250 on the clock, and they set it up after a very awkward first round.
Yeah, Rinse and Shine, like, they had a pretty decent sort of stop there at the very end, but you were absolutely right. They had to blow their entire ult economy, and I think Weed Stomp on LAN knew that as they were coming in. So they knew as soon as that fight was sort of over, they wanted to sort of draw out as many more ults as they could before they just sort of come in and sort of use them against a dry Rinse and Shine. And with 250 here on the clock remaining, so that they could add to their time mech, whatever it is. It's going to be a hard push here for Rinse and Shine. They don't want to get stuck here in the beginning. They're going to have to sort of come through and pretty much win almost every fight before point B to even have a chance here to match that time. So hopefully they'll be able to do so. Necra here looking like going to be on the Bastion for Rinse and Shine, so they're going to be coming out with that. And you see the new Elite here on the Roadhog. So Roadhog defense here, very popular, it seems like, on Junker.
Oh yeah. And APOC coming onto a Reaper. We've seen those DPS flexors on the side of We Stomp LAN. They're usually, on the Pharahs or the Hanzos, but we've always seen them kind of on the defensive sides go to a Reaper. They're expecting some type of dive or some close combat, or maybe they're wanting them to use a Bastion on the other side to where APOC can go and try and flank around and just be a distraction at least before he kind of wraith forms away after doing some meaty damage. Although, looking at a Doomfist at the moment here, Brave PLM, I think, just for the briefest moment in some overtime in a previous map used, Doomfist, but we haven't seen anyone use them in their current compositions.
Yeah, Doomfist here is the only
5,
reason to use Doomfist here
4,
is to give
3,
space
2,
to Necra,
1.
because you just don't want.
Attackers
I think they have the
incoming.
idea that maybe like Weed Stomp on land is going to try to
Stop
jump
the
onto this
payload.
payload as quick as they can, and it looks like here they're just sort of wrapping around because they're expecting something fishy here from Weed Stomp on land, but nothing doing. Just sort of,
Oh yeah,
just all's quiet's on the Western Front here right now.
Oh yeah, it was very standoffish as now people have found out where everyone is. Paper Monk though gonna grab an early headshot on APOC, but ooh, the almost res from Luna will get downed as well, but I don't know how much a good hook from New Elite, although a good 1-2 punch onto Big Green. They can keep pushing in as long as Nekka can keep laying down the damage. Casual is going to get demeched here, and actually a hook from the New Elite, who's just been sitting in that corner the whole time, has been getting some good kills here. Although Big Green, now a late res, back into the fight, put a very long punch from Brave PLM to try and go into the backline, does grab Baby Diva, and an early sleep there from Trinehard, just to open a little space there. And as they continue on, they're trying to push as hard as they can. Trinehard getting pulled in, but not before an anti-heal coming on New Elite. He uses his breather. I don't know how much healing he actually got out of that. APOC, though, on the other side, chasing down Bobby Smiles with a hook, bait and switch into her. Oh boy, she is down in the grave. And finally, that push will be stopped as Brave trying to get away. Can he do it? No, he cannot.
Oh, unfortunately not. But great positioning here by Weed Stomp on land. So as soon as they knew that they had sort of lost this fight, they sort of retreated and regressed. Oh, Paper Monk again with a big headshot there on Apocalyptic. I don't think he's going to be resable, is he? No.
I mean, they can try to. New Elite going in there to put his big body in there. Both tanks coming in, but a huge anti-heal Bio Grenade coming in. It'll just be a mild annoyance at this moment. And I think I saw a Nano Boost. Yep, coming into Big Green, throwing out a lot of the damage, but it's actually not going to do a terrible amount. New Elite still standing up front, landing a lot of hooks at this moment, and they're looking for something good here, but Big Green, the big O shield, falling, and that will just spell defeat, I guess, in the moment here. As well, Bobby, I'm not sure about that res. But they're going to have to go on the back foot here, come back in strong.
Yeah, and look at the ult economy here for Weed Stomp on land. They have 5 ults, basically 6 ults here, getting ready to sort of hold up Rinse and Shine. Rinse and Shine are in deep trouble here. They need to be able to break through. But Big Green does go down to Veritas here, and that's going to delay the push even longer. Brave PLM has his ult, but I don't know if there's anything that he can sort of combo it with. Brave PLM needs to sort of find a way to open some space here with all of these tanks, because they're running like this triple tank lineup here from Weed Stomp on land is giving fits here to Rinse and Shine.
Meteor strike.
And a very way in the back flanking Meteor Strike, basically just doing nothing but distracting. It does keep Veritas, who didn't quite get the memo. He was the only one on point, and actually they're going to start falling one by one for the time being. And now Necro trying to do so much damage in a small area with Junkrat. Going to be spamming those pills, and out comes Valkyrie and a Death Blossom from APOC, throwing out a huge 3-piece plus a supercharger on Big Green. And with 30 seconds left, they still have 3 ultimates here. And boy, there's going to be some big plays coming out from Rinse and Shine.
Yeah, there's still 3 ults here from Weed Stomp on land, and Necra has his tire. They need to make sure that Necra can get anything on that tire just to sort of make sure that they are able to sort of get some space for themselves. They make sure they even get point A here to still have a shot on this map. They need to complete, because if they can complete, they can at least still have another shot at this to go.
This is going to be a huge overtime push. Necro, though, coming in with the early tire, going up and around, trying to find the right decision. Only going for the big fat tanks, but won't matter as Casual X throws out the self-destruct, looking for big money, but only gets damage. But it's good enough for New Elite to finish off Big Green. And way in the back, Paper Monk going down to a headshot from Kairu. And right now, Weed Stomp on land are just swimming pretty. They are finding everyone they can. And is the last one left, but nowhere near even the res. And they will take a 4-0 on Junkertown.
Yeah, it's great performance there by Weed Stomp on land. Very dominant Junkertown performance. Didn't even allow them past the bridge there. they got them off of the Bastion, and then once the Bastion was down, there was just no way to sort of break that defense from Weed Stomp on land, and then the ult economy was just so in the favor of Weed Stomp on land, there was just really nothing Rinse and Shine can do. They ended up getting pretty much spawn camped at that point, and Weed Stomp on land, as we've said before, is just not overusing their ult economy, just using their ults than they absolutely needed to, and getting much more value than anybody on Rinse and Shine was. So it ended up becoming a 4-0 there, so there was just nothing that Rinse and Shine could do about that last point.
Yeah, it's always tricky playing against a Bastion, at least in my mind, because you have to engage so perfectly or get them off with that Orisa pull. And because if you distract the Bastion long enough, at least to switch targets at least one time, you're splitting so much DPS off of one or two heroes to where the rest of your team can filter in and try and do enough damage to really dislodge that pirate ship that they're trying to roll up on you. But seemed like We'd Stomp on land. They found their stride, and they kept going with it even till the end, not even having to use the tank configuration until the very last second, essentially. And at that point, only grabbing, I believe, one kill with it. So overall, they're finding the right times to use their ultimates and playing really well and cohesively.
Yeah, so good stuff here by We Stomp on Land. So that's going to do it for us here for this Owlet match between Weed Stomp on Land and Rinse and Shine. It is 4-0 to Weed Stomp on Land over Rise and Shine. I have been joined by my excellent play-by-play man, Mr. Dongles. Thank you very much for your commentary today.
Oh, thank you very much. It was a grand time.
Yes, and thank you to Talrek, who is our ref and admin here for this match. I am your caster, Hotohori. That will do it for us today. Join us on the main channel. I will be producing the 11 o'clock match between Nap Time and Top Ramen. That will be on the main channel, on the Owlet Tournament channel, starting at 11 o'clock. For Mr. Dongles and Talrek, I am your caster, Hotohori. It is a 4-0 win for Weed Stomp on Land over Rinse and Shine. So thank you very much, and have a good evening.